There's something I wanted to jump onto today. I've been thinking about a lot. If you've been super online or you read gaming headlines, this found footage style game has really blown up in a couple of days. It's called Unrecord, and it's leading a lot of people to kind of like debate whether or not it's a real game or not, and like what is the deal with this. And I have a lot to say about this one, specifically because this style of game does appeal to me. I think a found footage style game can apply really well to a lot of genres. And I think there is a big future here, but I just wanted to talk about it all and break it down a little bit because it is fascinating. And I think a lot of skepticism towards this thing comes with the fact that like we've seen a lot of games recently that seem too good to be true and turn out like they might. Like the day before, you guys remember that incredible trailer? Everybody thought it sounded really cool and ambitious and looked cool. We made a video about it on Game Ranks. Like it seemed like a thing. And then as things start to unravel, it seems like it's not quite what you'd expect. Then, of course, there was that whole game that a lot of people thought was like a Hideo Kojima game, but it wasn't. And that has completely been washed from the zeitgeist to the point where I'm talking about it right now and I can't even remember what it was called. What was it called? They released like half a trailer for it after a bunch of hype. It was such bullshit. What was it called? It was called Broken? Shattered? Abandoned. That's what it was called. So like another game, like a small indie project that maybe was almost too ambitious for its own good and caught the public eye real quick, but then quickly crumbled in the ambitions or the expectations. Now, with this game, Unrecord, I think a lot of people are kind of thinking the same thing, but also people can't help but be optimistic and hopeful for this one because it just seems cool. And this is actually not the first time we've seen about this game. I talked about it on the Game Ranks Friday show months ago when the developer, or one of the main developers from France by the name of Alexander Spindler, tweeted out like under a minute long gameplay clip just saying, I'm working on a body cam style game. And the visual style, people were immediately like, holy shit, myself included. Now, we've gotten a new look at the game. The trailer's pretty long and we get to see this thing. Now, what's worth diving into is that there's actually a bit more to this one than some of the other games we've seen thrown out here that seem awesome, but then there's not too much to it. So this game has a decent website that explains a lot of its stuff from the subject matter of the game, which is significant with it being like police body cam footage and that being possibly loaded, but also the fact that it is apparently real gameplay. It's running on Unreal Engine 5 and it's not VR. Now that's significant. I definitely want to talk about that because when I first saw this footage, I thought it was VR. Straight up, because there's still some things I can't quite put my finger on. I'll get to that in a little bit. But what we see here is the game is billed as like a police detective story where there's a mystery and you're this officer going through shooting bad guys. Tonally here, it seems to me to be a little off. Just the look of the game, the vibe of the game almost gives me more of like a Tarkov or like a more SWAT tactical Rainbow Six type of thing, rather than you just being like a lone run and gunning detective in like this realistic setting like this. Regardless, the gameplay, the shooting, the visuals just seem very raw. The gunshots are punchy and loud and borderline scary. The character deaths are actually obscured by pixelation, like censorship, like it would be like a television show or like a real security footage or something like that. We also see what it seems like towards the end, like a little bit of a crisis management type of thing, like choosing what you can say to handle a certain situation. But the main thing really is just the visuals and walking around and doing tactical leans and stuff. So right now, the developers have said this is just for PC. And I want to point out that like, I do think like whether or not this game really eventually gets out the door because it doesn't have a publisher yet, but we're going to see more of this. I think this is the future specifically because I think this is a good glimpse of what Unreal Engine 5 is capable of. We've seen examples and clips and things here and there of some wild things, but like looking at this, I immediately was like, okay, I see some Unreal Engine stuff going on here. The lumen lighting, almost like the photogrammetry style visuals, to even the debris on the ground and how the light hits that debris. That is, to me as a layman, but just someone who has paid attention to all the announcements, like peak Unreal Engine, and now I think up to like Unreal Engine 5.2 level stuff. And I think when you take that, like especially specifically almost like the photoreal or photogrammetry style environments, and good lighting, and you couple that with a fisheye lens that almost looks like a skate video more than a body cam footage. Like it almost looks like it would be really good for a skating game. Anyway, I digress. Couple that with like the fisheye lens, like cool filters and stuff like that. It can be really convincing, and it seems like it just kind of got something in people's brains. It twisted something to convince people it's real. And what I am very happy to see is that the developer has posted more videos and shown screen capture of it actually being a running actual game, like it is a game. And those visual tricks, the filters and stuff, makes it seem like it's real footage, but they've also released 4K screenshots. And when you look at the screenshots, they very clearly more look like a video game. I think it's because you don't see those filters in motion. That trickery isn't happening. If you look closely in the regular old screenshots, it's definitely a game, like you can tell. But still, it's just fascinating how that trickery works. And like there's still some skepticism with me for one thing, specifically because I'm still sensitive to like the old days when we got bullshit trailers like the Killzone 2 one that like kind of looked really real. But like the fact that the player's hands and the way the movement and the viewing works just seems so natural and so random. I'm like, how the hell are they doing that? That is like, I've played a lot of games. I've seen a lot of games. I've watched a lot of things on how games are made. I can't quite grasp how that works, how the sway works, how the hands move, how the aiming works. Like, I don't get how it works. And that's the part, more than the visuals themselves, the animations of the hands and the shooting and the camera work, that's what's fooling me more than anything. That's the shit that's really blowing me away. And honestly, the fact that like the developer is kind of proving that it is an actual running thing means maybe they cracked the code. Maybe this small independent developer cracked the code and figured out some new, cool, realistic way of portraying first-person shooting, right? Or it could just control like shit. Like, let's be honest, like there are a reason why some games control a certain way because it needs to be responsive and fun. This could be weird, but it's different. It's different and it looks cool as fuck. So there's that. Just personal tangent for a second here. This type of thing does appeal to me because like visually it reminds me, it looks like urban exploration YouTube videos and stuff. I love that shit. I love urban exploration, like checking out abandoned stuff. I don't really do it too much myself because I am scared. But I've always been fascinated by this stuff. And this game, like if you just take the shooting out of it, also just looks like a cool visual exploration experience. That's just me. But also the fact that like you're apparently a detective running around shooting these bad guys in these scary abandoned places. It almost kind of reminds me, is this like, it's like Condemned or like the early concept of the original Condemned game where you walk into an abandoned building filled with nasty bad guys living in the walls and shit and they don't want you there. Like there's something to that. I don't know if this is going to scratch that itch, but it's cool. So I'm really curious to see where they can go with this because it is being billed as like a detective story. It's got seemingly very heavy, very like real, very close to home subject matter. But like we've seen that in stuff like End of Watch, gritty cop dramas and stuff like that. I personally would like to see this type of style applied to other types of games. And that seems like it's going to be a thing. And that's what I wanted to kind of emphasize here is that this might not be like a new viral fluke of a weird game that may or may not ever come out. That still could be the case, but it's also, to me, a little bit more indicative of more stuff we're going to see. This isn't the only found footage style Unreal Engine 5 game. There's also Paranormal Tales. This has been billed by the developers a hyper-realistic body cam horror game in Unreal Engine 5 where you have to find your dog in pitch black woods. That is an awesome concept. It's very simple, but I'm curious to see what they're going to go for. This also has a Steam page. This is also from a smaller developer, but we've seen interiors, exteriors, with a very similar, very convincing and eerie and unnerving style thing. Now, because this, Unrecord, whatever we get from this, these might be like unnerving style games. They might even kind of give people motion sickness or not be a preference. I wonder if they're going to remain kind of a niche thing. Kind of how survival or found footage movies have kind of fallen into now. found footage movies blew up for a second. There was one for like everything, and then it kind of faded to the wayside. And now every once in a while, we just get one really good one. So I'm really curious to see if the game industry is going to go through a similar thing, because when this new gameplay dropped of Unrecord, it really blew up on Twitter, on news websites, headlines. Like, it was blowing people away. And I'm here for the ride, whether it's legitimate and finally drops or not. It looks legit, and maybe just Unreal Engine 5 really being as good as they're promising. This might be the early days of really seeing that tech start to come to life. And it's nice to see smaller developers seemingly embracing and taking advantage of this shit. So I wish them well. I want to see, again, this is my type of thing. I want to see this type of found footage, body cam style thing like Unrecord go over to more horror games, more first person shooters. Again, I said like a skateboarding game would be cool for this somehow. There's something here. Am I crazy? I don't know. You know what I do here. I'm just yapping about stuff I love, stuff I find interesting. And this bit of news, I had to talk about it. That's where I'm at, though. So let me know what you guys think in the comments about this game. Do you think this is a scam? Do you think this is BS? Again, I kind of thought it was too, but with the developer saying and actually showing more and being a little transparent, I'm feeling a little bit better about it. Again, it doesn't have a publisher yet, but do you think we're going to see it? Let's talk. Let me know what you think about this, other found footage games. Let's talk like Unreal Engine 5. Let me know what you think about this stuff. I think we could have a good conversation down there, so hit me up. But if you get what I'm trying to do here, just talk about stuff I love. Clicking the like button helps me. Thank you. YouTuber spiel. That's it. I'm Jake. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.